Hello and welcome to Booking Through Life. I'm Mary, and it's been a long time since I've been on Booktube, but it's good to be back and welcome to my channel. I'll just give you a little update. Last year, about this time, I went on vacation, and when I came back, it was just very hard for me to get back into the groove of um, making content, making videos, editing, I think really just takes up a lot of time for me. And so I had started um, working out at the gym, and that was taking up quite a bit of time. It's been very fulfilling and fruitful for me. I've lost 30 pounds and I've gained a little bit of muscle and feeling very good about myself, and just didn't think that with my autoimmune disease that I would ever be as strong as I am right now and feeling as good as I do. So that has been just a fabulous thing. I had a really great trainer, and like I said, I just don't think that going to the gym is going to go away for me. I was also taking painting classes. I'm going to be taking another class here in the fall. I'm looking forward to. So I just don't know what I have time for. It was also a good time for me to reflect on the books that I had been reading. And how I was kind of trying to keep up with the booktube world. And so it's been nice for me to really slow down a bit on my reading and really savor and enjoy the books that I'm reading, and reading really good books. So that's been fun too. But I'm excited that it is Jane Austen July, so I'm back trying to add to the content of Jane Austen July. And so today I'm going to talk about my TBR. Super excited. A big shout out and thanks to the hosts. There's Katie at Books and Things, Marissa at Blatantly Bookish, and Claudia at Spinster's Library. Please check them out. Check out their announcement videos if you're new to Jane Austen July. They have some, their TBR content, or Pile of Possibilities, is out now too, and there's quite a few booktubers around that have their TBRs out as well. So let's dive in. So there are 6 prompts in to that you can do to participate in Jane Austen July. The hosts say you only have to do 1 prompt, or maybe, or do they say that you should do the first prompt, which is read one of her Jane Austen's 6 completed novels, and but I think is you can do whatever you want. Participate in whatever way you want. If it's even just you're wearing your Pemberley t-shirt, or or you're drinking some Jane Austen inspired tea. I don't know. I don't know how you'd want to participate, but I just think it's a fun time of year to just jump in and do something that's Jane Austen related. So for me, I'm going to participate in their read along that they're having for the first prompt, which is read one of her main 6 novels, and they've chosen to read Sense and Sensibility. And I was really excited about that because I started to read Sense and Sensibility last year, and I just didn't get it finished. I kind of had my least successful Jane Austen July last year. I did read a very big, chunky book called The Year in Between. I can't think of who wrote it. I have it somewhere. I'm just not quite sure where it is. I read it with Kate Howe and some other gals. And I think the majority of us kind of agreed that there were things that we liked about it, but there were things that we weren't thrilled about it either. For me, it helped me kind of appreciate Marianne a little bit more. I've never really been a fan of Marianne, but it helped me kind of maybe think about what she could have been as a character, what maybe a little bit more of what she was like, or what she could have been experiencing. So back to this. I'm really excited to be reading Sense and Sensibility. I have several different editions of Sense and Sensibility. I think I'm mostly going to read out of the Marjolaine Baston beautiful edition of Sense and Sensibility. I read her edition of Pride and Prejudice a couple years ago, and I really just felt like just the beauty of the book. It feels really nice. The pages have a buttery feel to them. There's little inserts. Here's one that's got some information on Jane Austen. There's a family tree in here. Here's a letter. And then the illustrations are just absolutely, dropping things here and there, are just absolutely gorgeous. Look at this bird. Oh my gosh. It's just so yummy. So I'm looking forward to reading this and just having the extra enjoyment of the beauty and just the feel of it. I just think that all of my senses will be involved in this book, or more of my senses. Speaking of different senses, I think most of the hosts are talking about reading the audio version or listening to the audio version of Sense and Sensibility. And I think most of them have mentioned that Rosamund Pike has performed a rendition of the audio version. I have her reading the Pride and Prejudice. I would love to get her reading the Sense and Sensibility. So anyway, that's my plan for prompt number 1. For prompt number 2, which is to read one of her lesser known books or her smaller books, her juvenilia or her letters, something other than the 6 main books. And they're doing 2 read-alongs. They're reading she has 2 books that were, you don't even want to call them unfinished. They're maybe just kind of the very, very start of a book. And there was Sanditon, and then there was the Watsons. And Sanditon, I believe, she started writing before she died and died before it was completed. And then the Watsons, I think it had to do with maybe her father died around the time she had started writing that. And maybe it had I don't know, a preacher or pastor it was maybe revolved around him and his family, and that was painful for her. I'm not quite sure. I think Katie from Books and Things might have spoken about that a little bit. So they're reading the Watsons, and they're very short. They're not, like I said, they're not even considered completed novels. They're more like just her very rough starts. But Joan Aiken has taken up the task of finishing the Watsons. So this bind-up is called The Watsons and Emma Watson, Jane Austen's unfinished novel completed by Joan Aiken. And I really have enjoyed I think I've read 4 Joan Aiken books, and I've enjoyed all of them. So I think that I will enjoy this one as well. And I kind of like that it's finished too. And I know somebody, I don't think it was Joan, but I know some author completed Sanditon as well. And so maybe when I try to read Sanditon again someday, I've tried 2 or 3 times, I just couldn't get into it. So maybe when I try it again, I'll try it in a similar fashion as this. So I'm looking forward to this one. Then the next prompt is to read a nonfiction book, either about Jane Austen or about her time. And I have 2 nonfiction books for that. I'm going to read, not the full thing, it's a little bit chunky, but it's Georgette Heyer's Regency World, the definitive guide for all fans of Georgette Heyer, Jane Austen, and the glittering Regency period by Jennifer Closter. And it has some, let's see, who's the illustrator is Graham Tavendale. And look at this, I don't know if they're engravings or pen and ink, but yeah, some nice artwork in there. and I'm looking forward to just seeing what Jennifer has to say about the Regency world. Also, this is something that I did last year. I picked up Jane Austen's devotional, and it takes little snippets from her books, and then turns it into like a little devotion, something to inspire you or make you think. And then it has a little scripture verse. And so I'd only gotten to page 46 last year. I was kind of just dipping in and out of it, and that's what I'll do this year. I won't necessarily do one a day, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to getting back to it, kind of dipping in and out of that. So, and that's both of those things are easy to do. Just kind of read a little bit, but not put a lot of pressure on myself to finish. Because the next prompt is to read a modern retelling or to read a historical fiction set in the Regency period. And that is the prompt that, other than prompt number 1, that for the reading prompts, that's one of my favorite reading prompts. And so I usually have a huge pile of possibilities. The Watson one could count as that because it is a retelling or a continuation, but I will not count it. And I'm really looking forward to this book. The first book that I will read and finish this, and it's The Perils of Lady Catherine de Bourgh by Claudia Gray. It just came out in June, and it's the 3rd book of her series of Mr. Darcy and Miss Tilney's Mystery. So Claudia Gray created a world where all of Jane Austen's characters exist, and they exist in their ages, on how they would be. Like, she looked at when the books were written and what age the characters were, and then I think this is like maybe 20-ish years later, and so what age would have each of these characters been, like, let's say 20 years from when Pride and Prejudice was written. And so she creates this world where they all of the characters exist, and they all interact with each other. And so Elizabeth and Darcy have a son named Jonathan, and then the Tilneys have a son named Juliet, and they have they had like Emma and Knightley had a house party, and they all ended up together in the first book. And the first book was The Murder of Mr. Wickham. And so they all ended up together, and Mr. Wickham dies, and Juliet and Jonathan kind of do the amateur sleuthing of who done it. And I loved it, but it gave me a little bit of anxiety because I really didn't want one of Jane Austen's characters to be a murderer. But it was a lot of fun. And then last year she came out with The Late Mrs. Willoughby. And so we see Jonathan and Juliet back together again at someone's home, and Mrs. Willoughby dies. And so then I don't know what's going to happen, but it looks like Lady Catherine de Bourgh is the latest character to have some issues. So we'll see what Claudia does to Lady Catherine, and what happens with Jonathan and Juliet, because there's some sparks flying between the two of them, but of course, there's always, they're not right off just having a smooth relationship. So things are going on, and it will be interesting to see how she continues to develop their relationship, and what perils she puts on these different Jane Austen characters. So it's been a lot of fun. And I was looking in the spine and kind of looking at her author list of things that she's written, and she's written quite a bit. She's written some Star Wars retellings, and she does have 3 graphic novels that looks like it's all in a series, and then she has some other series and 2 standalone books, and it looks like she likes to write kind of fantasy is mostly her bent. And I do like her writing style, so I do think I will check out some more of her books in the future. So that's the one I'm mostly looking forward to. But then I have another Joan Aiken book, and I didn't, when I ordered this book, I did not know that Sense and Sensibility was going to be the read along. So I think this is a perfect book to read this month. It's called Eliza's Daughter, and it's a sequel to Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility. And so it says, because she's an illegitimate child, Eliza is raised in the rural backwater with very little supervision. An intelligent, creative, and free-spirited heroine, unfettered by the strictures of her time, she makes friends with poet William Wordsworth and Samuel Coleridge, finds her way to London, and eventually travels all the world, all the while seeking to solve the mystery of her parentage. With fierce determination and irrepressible spirits, Eliza carves out a life full of adventure and artistic endeavor. So I think this sounds really good. And like I said, I really enjoy Joan Aiken's writing style, and I think she does a good job with Austen's material. So looking forward to that. That might be a read when I'm on vacation a little bit later this month. And then I have, this is my Jane Austen bookshelf. And right over here is kind of books that I've bought, but they're still on my TBR. This set I've read. This set needs to be read. And this book is on the to be read side. It's called For the Darkness Shows the Stars by Diana Peter Freund. Sorry, Diana. This is a persuasion retelling, and it's, I'm just going to read this one little part. Inspired by Jane Austen's Persuasion, For Darkness Shows the Stars is a breathtaking romance about opening your mind to the future and your heart to the one person you know can break it. And I do believe this is a YA book. So I've been looking forward to reading this for a while, so I'm glad that I have it on my TBR list for this month. And then one of the series, there's several series, retelling series about Jane Austen, I guess making either the Darcys or their children or Jane Austen an amateur sleuth seems to be a favorite kind of thing to do. So this one is Jane Austen is the amateur sleuth, and it's written by Stephanie Barron. This is the third in the series. It's called Jane and the Wandering Eye. I love this series. You really feel like Stephanie Barron does a great job of capturing Jane Austen, and you feel like it really could be Jane Austen. And they're a little on the more dramatic or serious side. They're not quite as quirky as some cozy mysteries are. So I really like this series. There's about 15 to 17 of these, I think. And I think Stephanie Barron just wrote the last one, maybe last year. So there's plenty of content. If you end up getting into this series and like this series, there's plenty of content for you to explore and enjoy. So that's kind of it. I do have a couple of Georgette Heyer. I know some people are reading some Georgette Heyer. I just finished one earlier this month in June called The Toll Gate. It's considered a romance, but it's very light romance. I would consider it more of a mystery. And yeah, I like her. I just am not like super thrilled about her. I have two more Georgette Heyer books. I will probably read them at some point, not this month, but I don't think that I will need to continue reading her material. There's just too many other like really good books or books that I think might be really good to explore rather than reading one that for me is kind of like a 3, a solid 3. Okay, moving on. So the last two prompts are to watch some movies. One is a contemporary, the one is like a straight movie adaptation from a book. And so I've already watched Pride and Prejudice earlier this month in June because my husband was gone, and I usually watch the Keira Knightley, Matthew Macfadyen version of Pride and Prejudice when my husband's gone because I think it is a beautiful, beautiful movie. The soundtrack is great. It's just the cinematography is wonderful. For me, it's a near perfect movie, and I just absolutely love it. And so it's just like an old friend. I always joke that when my husband's away, I have a date with Mr. Darcy. So I already had my date with Mr. Darcy. I'll probably stick with Sense and Sensibility for my main watch. I have these two copies. I haven't seen this in a long time, so I might watch this. And then I ordered the BBC 2001, 2008 Sense and Sensibility, and I will definitely watch that when it comes in. And then there's an Indian. This would follow under the next category, and that's like a more modern retelling, a more modern film adaptation of a Jane Austen book. And so I've got it in English. It's called I Have Found It. It's an Indian. I'm going to say it's Candu Condane. I'm probably murdering that. I'm sorry. It's Candu Condane, and it's an Indian Sense and Sensibility. So I'm looking forward to that. There's also Scents, like perfume and smell or flowers, Sense and Sensibility, and then there's From Prada to Nada. I can't remember if I watched those last year or not, but I might watch those this year. And then I heard that Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is very, very loosely inspired by Sense and Sensibility. So that one sounds really fun to look into and try to see the inspiration for Sense and Sensibility. So I don't think I have that movie, but I think it would be really easy to get a hold of or even to stream. So, and then if I have time, I will watch anything and everything that I have in my collection. I have about 17 different movies. Definitely Austenland and I can't remember the name. There's another one that's really good. It's just gone. And maybe I'll look into some of the web series. I've only watched the Pride and Prejudice one. See, look, my mind just went totally, and the Emma Approved, and the Lizzie Bennet Diaries. I've watched those two, but I haven't watched any of the other web series, so I might check some of those out. So this is getting long. That's, I think, all I have to say. So please let me know in the comments if you will be participating in Jane Austen July. Let me know if you've read any of these books and if you have liked them. Have you read any of Claudia Gray books, and what did you think about those? Have you read any of her other books? I'd love to know. Please put some comments in the comment section. Chitty chat with me. I'd love to chat back with you. And that's it for today. So until next time, I hope all your books are good books. And thank you for watching. And I hope to see you again soon. Bye.